here we go.
Soaring in an F-16.
All right, here comes Afterburner.
At the top of the world, backseat with the U.S. Air Force. Over America's last frontier, Alaska.
All right.
At times flying faster than the speed of sound.
We are now supersonic.
An F-35, America's newest stealth jet. Beside us, a sea of snow-covered peaks below.
15,000.
The tallest in North America, the majestic Denali nearby.
Beautiful, isn't it?
My pilot, Major Lloyd Wright, call sign Bond, has navigated these skies for the last 7 years.
I've flown a lot of places in the world, and this is like the best airspace in the entire planet. It's absolutely a national treasure.
But American fighter jets aren't here for the views.
The military calls this strategic airspace. We've just arrived at the Arctic Circle, and from here, fighter jets can reach anywhere in the Northern Hemisphere in a single flight.
And it's hard to understand that looking at a normal map that stretches Alaska out over the top of the map. But when you look at a globe, it becomes very apparent how close we are to really anything in the Northern Hemisphere.
Europe is just across the Arctic Ocean. Mainland Alaska is less than 100 kilometers from Russia. And Asia, just across the Pacific.
We're closer to the Indo-Pacific than they are sitting in Hawaii.
With growing fears of Chinese and North Korean attacks. A few years ago, the Defense Department was looking to close most of Eielson.
DoD argued that the cost to operate and maintain Eielson was expensive due to the environment and the climate in Alaska. And ultimately, they proposed a major realignment.
Airspace larger than Florida, right here in Alaska, right behind me. And all of that was on the chopping block.
Alaska Senator Dan Sullivan tells VOA the people of Fairbanks, the city closest to Eielson, pushed back. So did an independent commission set up to evaluate the Pentagon's proposed base changes.
Because they found that it wouldn't actually generate the original savings expected. The commission also argued that Eielson was important as an airbase because it has great air ranges and extensive complexes.
After downsizing Eielson failed to take off, the Air Force did a 180, ordering its training squadron of F-16s to stay put, while deciding in 2016 to add not one, but 2 new squadrons of F-35s. 6 years and 54 of these F-35s later, Eielson is a combat-ready base equipped to fight at a moment's notice. These combat aircraft are worth about $5 billion, and the Pentagon has spent an additional $600 million building more runways, more hangars, more fuel tanks, more upgrades to accommodate the new jets and new people.
Case in point, it's always busy here. There's only ever about 20 minutes where there's not airplanes flying around right here.
But keeping these aircraft and the base operating in the Arctic is a struggle. Temperatures soar to 80 degrees Fahrenheit or 26 degrees Celsius in summer and dip to 50 below zero in winter.
We have challenges just keeping that equipment running because it was never designed to work in temperatures that are so extreme.
Fortunately for the Air Force, there's one thing that works great in cold weather: giant supercomputers.
So believe it or not, the aircraft themselves, like you said, are supercomputers, right? Computers operate really well in the cold. However, the cold brings a lot of challenges as far as just taxiing aircraft on the flight line as well. Negative 40 below is quite the experience when it comes to tow jobs. Even touching metal outside burns your hands. Like it's absolutely insane.
So here's one of the colder weather jackets here.
And even with proper clothing, at about negative 20, air crews can only stay outside 10 minutes before having to warm up inside 50 minutes.
So an hour's job takes 6 people what would normally take 1 person to do in an hour.
Spring and summer bring their own extremes. During our visit, falling snow turned the base into a swamp. The sound of pumps competing with the jet engines. And operating on top of the world also means operating at the end of the supply line. So airmen must find new ways for resourcing essentials like jet fuel.
We're very unique in the sense that we're pretty much self-sufficient off the state of Alaska. So we actually pull our fuel off the Alaskan pipeline, the crude. It's refined in North Pole and then pumped directly to the base.
Lieutenant Colonel Adam Starkey runs logistics.
You're looking at about just over 100,000 parts for the F-35. This has certainly been the most challenging job I've had in the Air Force. It's been a big learning curve putting F-35s in the Arctic and kind of figuring out what those challenges are.
The last 2 jets landed here in April, just in time, Sullivan says, to deter Russia's power plays.
They've been doing Bear bomber missions. We've had to scramble more F-22s to go intercept those bombers, probably more than any other time since the mid-1980s. So they're aggressive here too. And the only thing that Putin understands, the only thing in my view that Xi Jinping understands in this new era of authoritarian aggression is power.
The new F-35s at Eielson, combined with the F-22s at a base in Anchorage, give Alaska more than 100 combat-ready 5th-generation fighters. That's more stealth air power than anywhere else on the globe. There's a saying everyone at Eielson knows, from the godfather of the Air Force. In 1935, General Billy Mitchell told Congress, "Whoever holds Alaska will hold the world." I think it is the most important, strategic place in the world. More than 85 years later, Eielson's expansion amid Arctic extremes illustrate how the state continues to be a linchpin of America's defense. With Russia's invasion of Ukraine, U.S. allies fear Russia or other aggressors like China or North Korea could attack them as well. It's a threat the American military is constantly training for, especially in Alaska. Let's return to Eielson Air Force Base for a first-hand look at how the U.S. military prepares.
Good morning, Mig.
Back in the air with the U.S. Air Force. We are flying at NATO's western flank with Russia, in what is also the closest U.S. state to Beijing. Both now brandishing their power. Russia invading Ukraine, China threatening war over Taiwan.
It's not just great power competition, it's authoritarian, dictatorship aggression. And Alaska can play a huge role in making sure we're ready for it.
To prepare, war games. Eielson Air Force Base hosts multiple Red Flag Alaska exercises each year, training thousands of U.S. forces, along with allies from across the globe.
So to this flag we have Canada and we have the United Kingdom. This year we're incorporating Singapore and we'll bring in New Zealand and Australia.
Once here, trainees face a fierce team known as the 18th Aggressor Squadron. The team includes my pilot, Major Lloyd Wright, call sign Bond, donning communist red stars from shoulder to helmet.
Usually pretending to be Chinese, Russian, North Korean airplanes.
It's kind of fun being the bad guy.
Big 4, break left turn, bandit. 7 o'clock.
Back in the air, the dogfight is on.
We found him.
It's a team of American F-35s against Bond and the rest of the MiGs.
MiG-2, MiG-1, right.
A tongue-in-cheek reference to the Russian-made MiG fighters.
I am doing my best to do the tactics and all the airframe abilities and disabilities of our adversaries. And we're going to try and bomb the F-35's defended asset list. You got to pull some G's?
Yes.
Because here we go.
Alaska is more than double the size of Texas, with a population only about the size of Washington, D.C. So pilots have most of this last frontier airspace all to themselves.
Yeah, so during Red Flag, we'll fly down these like river valleys. They'll fly down these river valleys. And so it's really fun to try and like find them. It's like the most expensive game of hide and seek laser tag you've ever heard of.
Bingo. Bingo.
The weapons in Red Flag are not real,
Staff, flare.
but the responses mimic real combat.
Musket 2, copy kill.
Big 4, copy kill. We're dead.
Oh, they got us?
They just turned into a big ball of flame.
We just died.
Red Flag planner Lieutenant Colonel Greg Hunger says the training gives the U.S. and allies a chance to identify their vulnerabilities.
So the problems that occur, usually we see week 1 get fixed in week 2, so that if they went to combat week 3, those things are all resolved.
And with worries Russia could be inching the globe to the brink of World War III, Base Commander Colonel David Birkeland, who spent his more than 20-year career flying both the F-16 and the F-35, says Eielson's strategic importance is growing.
It just makes everything that goes on here at Eielson that much more real, much more relevant, I think, to the global situation.
A real motivation for these exercises to continue.